In today's video, I want to go through some of the changes that I'm working on that's going to be released very soon in the next release of the Pāḷi Notes app. In the new version, there's pretty much two pages which you would be using when you're studying. There's the cards page, which is the search function, and there's also the study page. So currently we're on the study page, and it's a completely new addition to the website. So previously there was only the option to search cards. However, now there's the ability to study the cards, which helps with memorizing vocabulary and also testing ourselves. So the idea is, as opposed to searching for a specific particular word and trying to find its translation, its meaning, on the study mode, you're going to be prompted with random cards and be tested on whether you remember its meaning or not. By the time that this is released, this interface should be more simple, but I'll show you how it's working at the moment anyway. So if you click Start Study, it'll prompt you, and what we need to do is see if we can retrieve the answer. Once we've had a go, then we click Show Answer, and depending on whether we had the correct answer in mind, we had a guess and we were incorrect, or we had no idea altogether and we had forgotten, you provide the system feedback on whether you were correct or you were wrong. The idea behind this is, if you're correct, the system will learn that this is an easy card for you, and you'll be prompted less and less often with respect to this particular card. But if you say that you're wrong, it will show you again more often until you start to get the card correct. And only after you've gotten it correct enough times, it's going to push that card away into the future. So that way, the system learns which cards that you haven't memorized so well, and it prompts you for those more often, with the idea being that being prompted and having to retrieve the card will help solidify that card in your memory, whereas the easy ones, we don't need to see those as often, so it shows you that with less frequency. So you just go through all the cards like this, and you can see as I click through them, there's the progress bar at the top. So that's the idea. I'm going to improve this over the next couple of weeks, but then we should be able to set how many cards we want to study every day, how many cards we want to review every day, just like the way it's done in spaced repetition apps such as Anki. And also, we have the ability to suspend cards, which means we don't want to study it for now, for whatever reason, and also skip cards, which means we skip it in this individual session. Furthermore, I'm thinking of adding the functionality so that we can study specific types of cards. So say on a certain day, we want to just study the past participles, or we just want to study nouns or verbs, so that we can intentionally be prompted on certain subsets of cards as opposed to just random cards from the whole database. This whole functionality is pretty new, so I think it's pretty exciting. And now we'll just go through the search page. So this page is quite upgraded compared to the current version, which is released. This page is important if we're translating from Pāļi to English, and even from English to Pāļi. In the current version that I'm working on, which is not released just yet, there's much more buttons at the top, and these buttons are now more functional. So it helps us narrow down the search results. In some cases, it helps us without having to enter anything into the search box. So for example, if I wanted to revise or look over demonstrative pronouns, there's a button for that. So if we click that, it's going to immediately return all the cards that are related to demonstrative pronouns. And from there, we can refer to them and study them. Now, if we wanted to look at personal pronouns, then it's the same idea. You just click that button, and here are the cards. For certain use cases, such as the pronoun use case, I find this is much more effective than trying to find the card by solely relying on the search box, because by clicking the button, it only returns 11 cards, and most likely the card we're interested in is at least one of these cards. Another example, say like I'm thinking of the past participle of teach, which in English is taught. Now, if I wanted to pull up the Pāli word for that, without the buttons, I would probably search up taught. And from there's actually 19 results, which isn't too bad. And I would try and find it somewhere here. Now, I probably should have emphasized at the beginning that the cards that are in this search function at this stage, it's really useful when we're searching for cards from the water textbook, Introduction to Pāli. But if we're studying it off a sutta or another source, sometimes it's directly in the database and sometimes it's not. We'll get to some of the other functions in a moment, which pull from different sources. But anyway, so I was trying to find the past participle of teach. And yeah, so this looks like it's the card. De sita, it says taught, and it's past passive participle of de seti. Well, if I wanted to make that search a bit more efficient, because I know that I'm looking for a past passive participle, I could also just click this button and it narrows down the search results. So there were actually 2 cards which related to the past participle of teach, which is taught. And so it could have been deisita or akata. So yeah, so these buttons can be very useful when you're doing targeted searches. And one thing I want to point out now is the buttons are quite cluttered, messy, and disorganized, and not very intuitive. So by the time I release this, I want to make the user interface much more simple, yet retain its current functionality. So that'll be fixed. Now the next thing I want to demonstrate, which is a new update, is instead of the view where you see all of the cards and you can see the details on them, there's also a view we can toggle now, which is the list view. And what that does is it returns all the words, but it's much more compact. And when we want to see more details of a certain card, that's when we can click on individual cards and the card appears beneath. So that's another option in terms of viewing the search results. And the last function, which is probably the most powerful update, is the reader mode. So what this actually does is instead of simply searching for a single word, we're actually able to paste in phrases, sentences, and even whole suttas. And the system will have a go at finding the definitions or finding the appropriate cards related to each word. So earlier this week, I was studying this sutta, and normally I would attempt to find the appropriate card individually for each word. And since it's a sutta and it's not directly from Water's textbook, I would also have to consult different sources because the original notes in Pāli notes were only geared towards the Water textbook. But I'll show you what happens now. So we copy and paste that. So this is what happens when you paste in a whole phrase. You can see the words here which are grayed out. That means the system couldn't find that word in our Pāli notes database. But the good thing now is it actually has a go at finding it from the digital Pāli dictionary. So I'll show you what I mean when we get to that word. But starting from the top, if I just click on the word, it has the matches on the side. And it tries to find the best match and puts it at the top. So from what I've briefly seen, most of the time, that's pretty good. And sometimes in more complicated situations, the word that you're actually interested in is one of the other matches, but they still all get returned. See, this is pretty much the correct match. However, there were 19 more cards that related to this search. So going on, etc., etc. Now when we go to Bikovo, it says 0 matches, but from the digital Pāli dictionary, there were some definitions. So it made the translation session much more smoother, and I was able to get the gist of it and still get the benefit of studying, even though I didn't have that much time, because a lot of the investigation work or doing a search in this dictionary and doing a search in Pāḷi notes and basically consulting different resources, this functionality eliminated a lot of that time. So yeah, you can just keep going, etc., etc., etc. Now, I see so much potential for this to be improved. However, since it's already such a big improvement to what's already uploaded, I'm going to try and release and deploy this as soon as possible. And hopefully it's going to prove useful for translating phrases, sentences, paragraph, whole suttas, etc., etc. The only last thing is there is now a sign-in functionality which is built, and the reason why that was important was for users that actually use the study mode, for the system to actually remember the study progress when you come back to the website later on. Then the user would actually have to make an account and be logged in, because then it just ties the study progress to the account. Otherwise, the website has no way of knowing. So if I were to study but I wasn't signed in and I come back a few days later, it's probably going to start from scratch, and it's probably going to forget which cards are easy, which cards are hard, etc., etc. But if we sign in and then we study, it's going to always remember. So that's pretty much the video for today. Hope that was interesting. I'm pretty keen and excited to release this. It is the 20th of December, 2025. Hopefully in the next few weeks, I'm going to tidy this up a bit, make the user interface a bit more cleaner, a bit more simple, and then finally release it. And when I do, I'll make a proper video going through exactly how to use it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.